Hello. All right, trial run. So I'm trying this round on my laptop versus my phone on the other one. I'm open to feedback if the audio is not so great or if the video is not so great. This is an older laptop. Honestly, I kind of feel like it's probably likely I'll switch to my cell phone in the future. If this doesn't work, I'll try it again. So that's the beauty of it. So I guess I'll just launch into this one. Um, as I think I've noted a few places, this one is more personal than just cool factoids. And so here's my thoughts on Lazarus, just raising Lazarus from the dead, and all of the emotional components that go into it. So Jesus and his disciples, they're going around, they're doing their thing, and Jesus gets a note from Martha saying, "Hey, your brother Lazarus is sick." So we know that Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, they're siblings, and they are disciples, followers of Jesus. They believe he's the Messiah. Um, Jesus has spent time in their home. I think we have some notes that one of the festivals when they were going to Jerusalem, they actually held it in their home. Uh, just a very part of the family trio. And Jesus gets this note and he's talking to the disciples, and the disciples are like, it's really not good timing. And Jesus makes it even better for them by saying, well, Lazarus is only sleeping. And they're like, cool, so he's going to get better. That's even better. So if he's going to get better, we don't need to go and risk our lives. Cool. And Jesus is like, no, no, no. He's dead. He died. And so we don't know the time frame exactly of when Martha sent her note versus when Jesus got it versus when he actually left to go visit them. I kind of think he had the note for a while before he went, because he had different plans. So he finally goes, and Martha finds out that he's coming. And in my mind, Martha is probably thinking, it's about time. Too bad it's too late, right? And if you're one of Jesus's disciples, you're kind of confused about what's going on, because I am thinking about the same time he got the note from Martha about Lazarus being sick is when he tells the parable of the rich man and the poor man named Lazarus. Now, if you've read any of Jesus' parables, you know that Jesus is not the kind of guy to use names in his stories. It's all like the tree and the man, and the kingdom of heaven is like this abstract agricultural concept, or there was a king, or there was a landlord, or he doesn't say names. And so here's this story that Jesus launches into. There's this rich man who he doesn't name, and then there's this poor man named Lazarus. And if you're listening, you're kind of like, that's a different story, and it's a very specific story, and far more detail in it. And you're kind of like, okay. And if you're one of the braver followers of Jesus outside of the 12, and you might go with him when he goes to Bethany to meet up with Martha and them, and you're watching this all play out, and it would be a little strange when he raises a man named Lazarus from the dead after telling a parable. There we go, about a man named Lazarus dying and the request being made to send him back. It's almost like it actually happened. So Martha meets with Jesus, and so if you've ever lost somebody, and you know that there's somebody who could have done something about it, that cares about you, cares about your family, and I don't know, he's your Messiah, and you know he knows what happened and when, and he waits until you are at a point where it's too late. So context here. There is a belief that if you've been dead for 4 days, your spirit has finally left your body. Like 3 days up, your spirit hasn't, like it's possible. There, like maybe somebody like God could bring you back, but after 4 days, your body's starting to do the weird dead things and decay. Like it's been a while, and he hasn't just been dead for 4 days. He's been buried for 4 days. So he's beyond that point. In their minds, there is nothing that even Jesus should or could do about it. So if you're Martha and you find out Jesus has finally come and he's been going around healing other people, telling his stories about how the kingdom of heaven is and that it's near and all of these things, and you kind of think that he would have come to help you. And for the disciples, like when Jesus says, "Oh, he's sleeping," and they're like, "Oh, cool, he's gonna get better," they're in the same mindset of if there was something Jesus was going to do, he would have done it earlier. So here we are, and Jesus is like, "Okay, I realize what I'm putting you through, right?" And then so Martha goes and gets Mary, and Mary asks the exact same question that Martha does. She's like, "If you had come sooner, you could have done something about it." And the unspoken thing is, "But you didn't." So you, so Lazarus had to suffer through being sick, suffer through being humiliated by having to go. I'm assuming the rich man is his employer, and beg for assistance, get turned down, and just absolutely be humiliated in this culture where they perceive blessing as health and wealth, and he has neither of these. So clearly, society sees this man as someone God's not smiling on this man. And his sisters are now left in a space where it's difficult for a woman to take care of herself. I mean, are there women who have managed to make a name for themselves and make money? Yes, but they're generally not Jewish women. There's a different cultural thing where they depend on the brother, they depend on the father, they depend on the husband, and there's no husband mentioned. So they need him, and there's this loss of confidence in how much maybe God doesn't love them as much, or he would have been there, right? And you're Jesus, and you can feel inside what they're thinking and feeling, and how the underlying anger, betrayal, fear, and you know what you're about to do, but you also know that you did this to them on purpose. You actively chose to make these two beautiful, beloved followers of yours feel just like the bottom has dropped out of their lives, and you could have done something. And so as they approach, Jesus loses it. It's where we get that magical shortest verse in the Bible. He wept. So that word wept is he ugly cried. He just breaks. He just loses it. In front of everybody. And the people watching go, "Oh, he must have really loved Lazarus. Look how much he's mourning." No, he's bawling because of how brutal this life experience is, even though what he's about to do is amazing. And so we continue forward, and he does go. He approaches the grave, and he says, "Okay, move the stone." And Martha's like, "That's a terrible idea. Why would we do that? Have you smelled a dead person before? No, thank you. Hard pass." And Jesus is like, "No, please do the thing." So they're like, "All right." They move it, and he calls Lazarus out, and Lazarus comes out. Now here's where we don't like this story, okay? As Christians, we love this narrative of he called my name and I ran out of the grave. Like, we like that song, but I can't sing those words because that's really not how it happens. I mean, are there a few people who have this amazing testimony where they were freed from addictions and problems in an instant and became these powerful, strong, just glorious people? at the grace of God, yes. But most of us don't have that story. Most of us, we we don't have that much dignity coming out of from being a non-Christian to a Christian. We hold on to things. We pretend. And so let's take a look at what happened after Jesus calls Lazarus out. Now, how does Lazarus come out of the grave? If you know anything about how they buried people, they would wrap them up in fabric and tie them so that their bodies wouldn't do the weird things that happen when bodies decay after they're dead, right? If you've ever seen like Christmas Carol where Jacob Marley's got his face tied up and so his jaw doesn't fall and they put coins on the eyes. And so this is their way of giving some dignity as this body decays. So Lazarus's face is wrapped, his body is wrapped. I mean, if there were any stairs to get out of that cave tomb, it would have been really hard to get out of there, but he manages to do it. I don't feel like it's a very dignified experience. And so here's what happens next. What we want is I ran out of the grave. Okay, if I didn't run out, I just came out, and Jesus came to me, and he took all those bindings off and threw them away, and picked me up and looked at my friend and said, "Look, beautiful, clean, living person, Lazarus is alive," presenting him to his family, and they rejoiced. But Jesus doesn't do that. And so here we are as Christians, we become Christians, we go, "Okay, Jesus, fix all the sin and make me holy, yay." And then we go through all of these cycles and cycles of trying on our own because Jesus just isn't really making it magically go away. And so, okay, fair, fine. So if Jesus didn't go to Lazarus and take the stuff off of him, surely Jesus said, "Okay, Lazarus, come a few steps closer. Try to take some of it off yourself, and I'll help you a little bit. But I really need you to do as much of it as possible." Because that's another thing that we do as Christians, right? We're like, okay, me and God, me and Jesus, we got this. I'm going to read books and read the Bible, and I'm going to trust the Holy Spirit to change me, and I'm going to put all this work into it because I have to. Because I'm supposed to be this way, so I'm going to willpower my way through it, and it's exhausting. And you get these wildly insane stories of pastors committing adultery and doing all kinds of awful things and being put out of their churches, and you're like, why? Why did that happen? How did that happen? Why would Jesus let that happen? It's because they're trying to do it on their own, and guess what? You can't. You can't take off grave clothes because you're inside them. You don't have an outlet. Your fingers can't get to it. It's all like, right? You can't do it. So what does Jesus actually do after he calls Lazarus out? He looks over at the friends and family and says, "Go to him and unbind him and let him go." Like, Jesus says, okay, y'all have to be like, this is a community effort. It's terrifying, right? So let's think about this. If Lazarus has been in the grave for 4 days after being dead for a few before, right? And Martha knows what that fabric, like, it was clean going on him, but it ain't clean anymore. There's fluids and moisture, there's all kinds of things that have been absorbed into that fabric. I think it's still like that when he comes out. So what do we Christians do? We see that new Christian and all of their problems and go, I can't get involved in that. It's really unpleasant and kind of gross. I'm going to let Jesus do it. So Martha and Mary, what if they hear Jesus say, okay, go and bind your brother, and they go, hard pass, I'd rather not. Let's say you're Lazarus, and you know that they're refusing to help you, and you're like, I can't change this. I have no. And you're like looking at Jesus like, can I just go back be dead again? Because that happens with a lot. Like my generation that was raised in church, that's not in church anymore. This is where they're at. They became a Christian. And it didn't happen like they thought it would. And other Christians didn't help. Because they're also pretending they're fine. And, it's awful. Or we have another spin on this. Say Mary and Martha and the family and friends that are there go, absolutely, you brought him back to life. Let's get this stuff off of him. Let's help him. And now you're Lazarus going, oh, can you smell it? I can smell it. I don't think you should get anywhere near me. It's a terrible idea. I got this. I'll fix it. Y'all just stay over there. We do that, don't we? Like, oh no, I'm alive. Yay. Let me just hop over here and pretend I'm fine. This is fine. No, it's not fine. You have to let people into your mess. And in the story, they do. They unbind him, and he gets to have his face free of that awful smell, and he gets to see his hands aren't rotted away. They get to see that he really is alive, and they get to help him restore that dignity that he lost through the process of getting sick and dying. So they start over again. And that's the involvement we're supposed to have with each other. That's the honesty and transparency we're supposed to have as Christians. That's the grace and the mercy is recognizing, yeah, this is a mess. But guess what? Everything that smells bad, all of these sins, all of these habits, all of these problems, all of these things that aren't honoring God, we can go through it together. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever had the experience of sharing with someone you trust, someone you know you're safe with, the more you share with them about your struggles, the more you discover they're not struggles anymore, right? I mean, there's a reason why Paul says, I think it's Paul, confess your sins to one another. Like, this isn't some like Catholic confession where you sit in a box and feel guilty and like, okay, I've confessed, I'm gonna go back and still do it again. No, this is I want to get this grave clothes off, but it's stuck. Like, there's a piece that I can't reach on my back, and I can tell it's stuck to me. Can you help me reach it? And it's gonna hurt. It's gonna take time, but it's worth it. And so yeah, let's help each other and not be afraid, and let's try to see what happens if the church looks like that instead of a bunch of people hopping around pretending they're new and clean. They're alive, they're transformed, but they're not letting go or letting anyone else in, or they're not diving into other people's lives. So like, this is me diving into your life, whether you feel like watching any more of my videos or if this one was more meddling than you liked. I hope you come in and join me again. I promise. I can't promise. I probably will not do a conviction message like the wedding in Cana. I love just the drama of Jesus, right? So I probably will do that one next. So water into the wine, miracles. Let's play. Let's be lighthearted next time. All right. Bye.